So the pandemic has made human beings all over the planet obsessed with our health and mortality. And the reality is that for most of us, COVID is not gonna kill us. Something else will. And it could be something unexpected, like those 42-year-old guys who go for a run on a Saturday morning, 0% body fat, no bad cholesterol, and then bang, out of nowhere, they get hit by a flying air conditioner. And a friend of mine said to me, listen, Nick, if you're taking your health seriously, you should know what diseases you could be prone to other than COVID. And the only way to find out is by taking a DNA test. And I said, how gullible and neurotic and paranoid do you have to be to buy into this latest health fad? And so about a week later, the kit arrived. And guys, they've put billions of dollars into DNA R&D, and then it arrives and it's just basically an earbud from clicks. And what you're supposed to do is take the earbud out and swab the inside of your cheeks. Now, make sure you don't clean your ear before your cheek because it's going to taste gross. And then basically you put that back in the envelope, send it off to the company, and the scientists remove your genetic material. And then I don't know what they do with the earbud. I think they just flush it down the toilet. It goes away into a river, probably lands up in the Indian Ocean, and then gets picked up by the Benguela current and deposited off the coast of Somalia, where a sea turtle ingests it up its nostril and then dies from asphyxiation. So there are negative side effects associated with DNA testing, but on the whole, it's very positive. And then about a month later, you get the results. And the results are like 400 pages long, and they give you a doctor to interpret the results. And in my case, it was Dr. Krista from Centurion. And she phoned me up and said, Nick, I'm very concerned about your DNA results. And I said, what? She said, well, let's start with the liver function, it's compromised. And I said, how? And she said, well, you can't detoxify certain foods. For example, you go to a braai, you're going to eat that lamb choppy that's a little bit charred. You won't be able to detoxify the charred lamb choppy. You will have to pop like an essential that you would normally take for a babalas. It's like a 2-in-1 special, sort of. But that's because of your gene, the MTHFKR gene. And I said, what does MTHFKR stand for? And she said, I don't know, I call it the motherfucker, but it's probably like a Latin thing. Secondly, I said, yes. She said, secondly, your cholesterol, very, very high. I said, I know about the cholesterol. My dad died of a heart attack. I'm on the blood thinners. But doctor, can you tell me, does that mean I won't die of a heart attack, but I might die from a paper cut? And she said, sorry? And I said, nothing. And she said, and finally, you are under-methylated. And I said, is that why I've not been in high spirits for such a long time? Or is that the pandemic? And she said, sorry, what? And I said, nothing. She said, you're very low in vitamin B12. And I said, I've been taking the vitamin B supplements. And she said, orally is not sufficient. You need straight shots. And I said, that's what I've been telling my wife. And she said, sorry, what? And I said, you heard me. And she said, click. That was the end of the call. And the next day I thought, I better get that vitamin B shot. So I went down to the local pharmacy to see Sister Patsy. And you have to buy the vitamin B in a vial called Neurobian. And I got the prescription. And while I was waiting to see the nurse, there was an elderly gentleman next to me, and he said, well, what are you here for? And I said, well, I'm here for the vitamin B shot, but also I've also got very high cholesterol. And he said, I've also got a high cholesterol. What are you on? And I said, I'm on a statin. And he said, you got to be very careful about the side effects of the statin. It's horrendous. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, I've had 12 car accidents in the last 3 months. And all of them before 9 o'clock in the morning. Half of them I crashed into my own gate. And I said, well, didn't you get tested after the third accident, for example? And he said, I've always been a bad driver. I just assumed it was that. But the last one, I actually crashed into the back of a taxi on Hendrik Verwoerd. And I said, do you mean Malibongwe? And he said, what? And I said, nothing. He said, yeah. And I got out to inspect the damage. I fell asleep on the pavement. And I said, and then did you get tested? Yeah, they did a battery of tests, and it came back, they found nothing. Eventually, I self-diagnosed. I was like, and? He said, yeah, I realized I was taking my hypertensives last thing at night and my sleeping pills first thing in the morning. At which point Sister Patsy came out and said, next please, and I went in to see the nurse, and she said, what are you in for? And I said, I'm here for the vitamin B injection, and by the way, why do you sound exactly like the guy outside? And she said, sorry, what? And I said, nothing. She said, do you have the vials? I said, yes, I've got the vials. I handed over the vials. She said, has it just come out of the fridge? I said, I assume so. She said, well, it's too cold to give you the injection now. It's going to sting. I'll have to just warm it up under my armpit. She then popped it in under her armpit and said, let's just chat for a couple of minutes while it warms up. I said, okay. She said, are you the comedian, Nik Rabinowitz? I said, yes. She said, are you Jewish? I said, yes. She said, are you practicing? I said, I'm a bit rusty. And then she said, and I'll never forget this is 40 seconds into the consultation, she goes, I believe it's very lucky to screw a Jew. And I'm like, do you mean sexually or financially? She says, no, sexually. My ex-husband was Jewish. And I said, well, that makes you Jewish by penetration. And she said, sorry, what? And I said, nothing. And she said, do you have kids? I said, yeah, how old? I said, well, they're like 11, 8, and 3. And she said, you must enjoy them while they're young. When they get to be teenagers, they become a f***ing nightmare. What? Yeah, the 15-year-old came home the other day with a bank bag and some green substance in it. I didn't know what it was. I took a picture, I WhatsApped it to the school council. I said, what is this? And he said, it's marijuana. And I said, what should I do? He said, flush it down the toilet. I thought to myself, what a f***ing waste. So I googled how to roll a marijuana cigarette on the interwebs, and they told me you need what they call a Rizzler, a rolling paper. I didn't have that, so I googled what to do if you don't have the rolling paper. They said use the back page of your Bible, one of the blank pages, because it's got the same consistency as what they call a Rizzler. I rolled a humongous joint. They said you must hotbox it. I didn't know what that was. I thought that's when your cookie got aroused in the 1980s. Turns out you have to smoke it in a very confined space. So I called my son. I said, this is your punishment. You're going to smoke this with your mother in this toilet. We got halfway through. I told him, this is actually going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. But at that point, I was talking to the dog. You won't listen. You know, it's very difficult. The next week, I had to discipline him with a bong. And then she turns to me and says, would you like it in the bum? And at that point, I said, I don't think my sexual orientation is really relevant to this conversation. And she said, no, the vitamin B shot. And I said, well, yes, I mean, yeah. Live every day as if it was your last. And I said that because I was thinking of the old guy outside. But also, I was thinking of the last trip I did with my wife on our anniversary when we went away for the weekend. And I said, babe, how do you live your life as if every day was your last? I mean, if this was your last day, what would you try that you've never tried before? And she said, origami. What would you try? And I said, anal. And then she said, well, you're not going to believe this, but I've ordered a strap-on from Dr. Eve's online sex shop, and it's coming the day before Christmas. And I said, we don't celebrate Christmas in this family. Which was actually a lie. I've celebrated Christmas my entire life. In fact, there were very little signs that we were Jewish growing up. We were celebrating Christmas with the neighbors, we had small straightish noses, and we were not financially well off. We were basically poor whites, but we were white, so we could afford to be poor. There was just one obvious clue. At the urinal, I would often look down at my friend Peter Ainsley and think to myself, why does his have a turtleneck and mine looks like an inquisitive one-eyed meerkat?